Hello and good evening again. Welcome to BCL Beyond the Boundary with myself, Simon Booth. This evening, I'm glad to say I've got Nathan Rushton here from Walkden Cricket Club. Evening, pal.
Evening, how are we?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. Thanks for taking a bit of time out to speak to us.
Pleasure.
I was wondering when we were going to get someone from Walkden, so good that it's yourself. So first things first, with these interviews, Nathan, a lot of people have been, we're calling you Nathan, by the way.
Yeah.
But what we're asking people to do is obviously just introduce themselves, a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, your involvement at Walkden, etc. Because obviously there'll be people who watch this who no idea who I am, know who do, don't know who you are, don't know who I am. So just for the benefit of the audience and obviously people who are potentially listening to us at this moment in time, a bit about yourself, pal. Who you are, what you do, etc.
So obviously, as Simon said, Nathan Rushton, but also known as Bushy. I think I wouldn't even turn around on a cricket field if someone shouted Nathan. It's alluded off my father. Come back to Walkden starting last year after a 4-year spell at Worsley and a year stint at Social. And obviously my role at the club was to come in to take over the junior section, which was obviously at the time Alex Newby was overseeing it. He parted with the club, and the club wanted somebody who was, a little bit younger, in contact with the kids growing up in the area. So they approached me, and obviously I took the role as being an ex-Walkden junior myself.
Yeah.
And with that, I then started creating a coaching team, if you will, and it's ever growing, and we're getting more and more kids. So that's where we're up to. And obviously, playing wise, played most of my career from 17 in the first team at Walkden, Worsley, and at Social. But last year took a role in sort of saying I'd play with the second team and try and, when you coach these lads, you don't always see them play. So try and see them play in a senior environment and coach them through, and having conversations more than anything than coaching about the difference from 50 over cricket to T20 cricket. I think that was really useful last year.
Right. Okay, bud, thanks for that. That'll clear anything up for anyone who doesn't know you. So that's happy days. First things first, we've got a sort of a semi-script to go through because I've done the same with most clubs. So, we'll not stick to these regimentally. If we want to go on our own little avenues, we will do. But first things first, we'll dive into Walkden Cricket Club. In terms of the 2020 season, what was the club's plans in terms of players, any club improvements that might be going on, and any possible events in your club's social calendar?
Yeah, so the club has had a good run of success, but like anything, if you've had years of success, it comes at a cost. And people say, and I've heard it myself, and I was probably one of those people that walked in, pay for the league every year. And, at times that can be true. There's a lot of lads that were there playing who weren't getting paid. People like, Dave Smith, one prime example. That was always over his head. He was always getting paid. And I can tell you after conversation, he wasn't, and one thing that we've always said, and when I took the role sort of 14, 15 months ago, was what I'm doing, we have to have an end goal. And that end goal is progression into our youth players, our homegrown players into the first team. And we'd always said, like, what's the plans? How can we change? And this year we actually said, we've got 4 or 5 juniors, under 18s, who potentially aren't ready for first team, but let's just throw them in. We've got some really good players around them, like Tariq. We've got good pro, good overseas. Liam Jackson was hopefully having another year out, So there's some really experienced heads still around the first team. And let's throw these young lads in. Obviously, you would have seen on social media, Taylor left, Jono, Aman. So there's big shoes to fill. And obviously with big shoes to fill, and if you want the same type of player, it costs money, and I have this conversation with Dad now, you say there's people in the league being paid now who years and years ago wouldn't have even got a pint. And And that's where the league's gone, is that, and it is driven by success and clubs wanting success. So players-wise, obviously, we had that core group of players. Hamil was staying as a keeper. So we had that 5 or 6 from last year. Then we was going to promote, 3 or 4 lads into the first team from our second team. And going to run with that for the season, see what happened. We might have finished bottom of the league and been relegated, but obviously COVID hit and we didn't really know. And with the COVID, that stopped the club improvements. People might have heard over the last 10 years there's these big developments going on. Actually, in April, it was going to start. And there was a new perimeter fence going in, etc., etc. So actually, the club improvements were going to be taking place over the duration of this season. And come the end of the season, it was talks that September time, we may have to play the last 3 or 4 home games at Walkden Cricket Club, because they don't play on a Saturday, just so we can get a little bit of progress on the playing surface before the winter hits. And possible events, we've talked about, having more fundraisers, more looking at trying to bring the club together from a junior and senior point of view. And we were talking about trying to potentially run our own music festival. We know obviously there's a Falmouth Live, Worsley have the G Fest, so that was something in the pipeline that Walkden hadn't got. And you may have heard there's a Bring Back to the Future that happens in Walkden in July. We were trying to get that. It happens on the Farmers Field. We're trying to get that at our club. It's not happened yet. I don't think any conversations happened, but we're just trying to give something on a weekend, whether it is June, July, August time, that the whole community can come together and sort of appreciate our facilities, and especially with the ground developments. I mean, it was something like £500,000 that was being pumped in, new fence, improvements to the field, the outer field, old change room being converted into flats, new clubhouse on the hill, new control net. So the plans look amazing. It's been happening for 10 years, and it was sort of going to start in April, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to start around August time, even if it's just a new perimeter fence, just before we hit the winter period. We put on Twitter the other day, we had a working party last Saturday. In the 7-8 weeks where we declared the ground fit, we've had vandalism. I think every club has had vandalism in the past, and kids are bored. They're being let out. I think in most places playing football against sight screens, and sight screens break. And leaving glass everywhere and stuff like that. So things are going to hopefully change with the new fencing, and try and get the club back to looking as good as it used to be back in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to see the plans. So obviously Frank Inks and I sort of sit on the exec committee, and he was good enough to bring the plans with him to one of the meetings, and we looked at some of the ideas that Walkden had, and we were looking at sort of timelines, effectively of when it was going to happen, and it looked brilliant. It looked fantastic, because the new clubhouse was basically like on a diagonal from where it is now, isn't it? So I've looked at all that. So I mean, it was obviously exciting stuff, and obviously coronavirus is it, and it's sort of put everything on the skids. So you've sort of half answered my next question with regards to how coronavirus has hit the club. But in terms of from a senior and a junior point of view, obviously you're heavily involved with the juniors.
Yeah.
What's how's that affected your plans essentially?
From a senior point of view, we were looking forward to seeing these promotions of these young lads. It was 4 or 5 lads who were put their hand up, to say, and they were all under the age of 25. So yeah, we'll have a crack at first team for the season. Even if it doesn't work out well, we're going to have a go at it. The second team, we've had some players come back to the club at second team level, some older lads. I think from a second team point of view, we really wanted to push for that promotion. We missed out last year, and it was sort of like on the back burner, because we had a good cup run, which we lost to Falmouth seconds, and it was something that we was aiming for all season to get promoted. And I feel like the calibre of players in that second team deserves to play in the first division. in the second team level, because no disrespect to some other clubs. I mean, you know, for example, there's 3 or 4 lads in that second team that could easily play first team. You know, there's likes of myself, Tom Gaskell, Steve Edwards. We were playing week in, week out in the twos, and you know, you're turning up and you're skittling a team 50 odd and you're over and done with by 4 o'clock. And it's no disrespect to the clubs in that league, but you just think we want to be in that higher division, you know, and testing ourselves. And I think that's where we want to be. But again, with having some of our stronger second team, younger lads going into that first team environment, we didn't know how the second team. So it was, you know, it was unlucky that the COVID hit. But it was frustrating because we wanted to like really push on and kick on this year, but you know, and see what homegrown talent we've got in the club, both playing at first team and second team. I think the juniors is where it's hit the hardest. When I took over 15 months ago, my first session there was about 15 kids, and I turned around to Steve Edwards Senior and went, "Is this the average turnout?" He's like, "Yeah, if we get 20, we've done well." And I was like, "Really? You know, that's what we're working with." And mainly those were younger kids. A lot of the 18s didn't train, even though they were a really good team, and I couldn't get my head around it. And by the end of the summer last year, we were getting near enough 50 kids, you know, and the 18s were all training. We had shed loads of under 9s, under 11s, and one age group that we were looking at developing this year is the 15s. It's a tricky age group. Being a teacher, I know the changes that happen in mentality for lads and girls at that age, and you know, I mean, cricket is a sport. If you're good at it, you're going to stay at it. If you're a bit in the middle, it's an easy one to say, "Oh, I can't be bothered anymore," you know, and throw it away. And with that, with the numbers that we had last year, we went away and we said, right, what can we do to improve our coaching team? So Billy Coleman come back, Barry Pickles come back to the club, Mark Trent put his hand up, you know, along with obviously myself, Steve Edwards Jr., George McManus, Tom Gaskell. So started to have a real buzz about the juniors. We had, I think, 3 sessions of indoor nets before it was cancelled, and we were having around 30 kids turn up. And for Walkden Cricket Club, even when I was a junior, to get 30 kids at indoor nets, it was like, wow.
30 is good numbers for any club in a winter net. I mean, you know, I think there'll be certain clubs out there who will say, "Oh, well, you get that every week." But you know, I mean, I can only go from my own experience at Falmouth, and I've done the same thing where I took over. You know, I interviewed Josh Bohannon the other night, and he's a product from Falmouth Juniors, and then he had to move on because we had no juniors. So I know how hard it is, and it takes a lot of time and effort to put in and try and get them kids. And before you go on, I had the pleasure of umpiring your under-18s last year. I
was
there. Yeah, and they were spot on. I must admit, they were right good lads. Played the game well, played the game hard, and you've obviously done quite a lot. You know, whoever's took them under the wing has done a great job with them, because they look like a proper unit. You know, they look a good side. So
yeah, Tom Gaskell's worked hard with them over the last couple of years, and obviously he's been the second team captain for the last couple of years. So they've had a lot of leadership from him on a coaching front and also a playing front. So you know, and then I stepped in for that game, and I was pleasantly surprised how well they were in the field, how energetic they were. You know, and there's some good individual talent in there. You know, and that's what we sort of said. You know, this year we sort of sat down and sort of said, well, what do we aim for? I mean, the under-9s last year were unbeaten, even though there's not really a league format, but they were unbeaten. So they were going into the under-11s. So we said, if we can have a strong 11s and 9s, we can still have the 13s. You know, I mean, 13s last year, it was a fairy tale story. They lost every game and then went up to Bradshaw at top of league with 8 players and beat them. You know, and it was like, you know, and that was like their story of the season, and it was halfway through. You know, we didn't have a 15s team, and the 18s team finished 3rd, I think, in the end. But we sat back and was like, we could have 3 really strong junior teams. But to get there, we need to bring in a few more coaches. You know, and that's what we did. And we're now at a point where we've got coaches to provide for everyone. You know, and that's what we're looking for moving forward.
Yeah. It's obviously, it sounds like you're doing a lot of stuff there, and it looks like you're making great, you're making good movements and doing the right thing. And obviously, as a teacher, you're in a very privileged position that you know how kids tick, essentially. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
and hopefully that can bode well for Walkden. Next one, obviously, I'm going to ask you about is what sort of things you're doing. Now, I know what you're doing because I'm watching them myself. So I'll let you introduce them. But in terms of the juniors and not being able to be in contact with them, what sort of things are you doing at the club to combat that?
Yeah, so obviously, social media's helped. We have a school social media, and my boss said to me, "Listen, I need 10 rugby videos for the next 10 weeks," and it just the penny sort of dropped and was like, "Okay, so if I'm doing that for school, I can do that for the club." And yes, the neighbours have been looking, going, "Why is he doing so many of these videos?" But it's just getting out in the garden, just doing some simple drills, not trying to overcomplicate it. All you need is, I try and keep it as like, bat ball, and if you don't need wickets, use the bin, use a chair, use a plant pot, and try and just be really simple, because I know when I was growing up, I didn't have wickets in my back garden. I had my bat and my ball, and that was it. And I can probably only talk for some of the juniors that I come in contact. They have a bat and ball, and some other clubs, they may have the full set and this, that, and the other. But I was brought up in Walkden. It's a working class town. It's and some of the kids we get don't even have a bat and ball. And we've offered out our equipment. We've obviously cleaned it, offered it out. So we've had 3 or 4 parents saying we'd like a bat and ball, and obviously, posting the home videos has had a really good response. We've had some really good positive feedback from it, from parents, from other clubs, from other coaches. And now, obviously, with the new guidelines, we're in a position that we can offer a one-to-one coaching. I had my first session tonight, real success. We're just offering it on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Saturday morning. And it's a 50-minute session, and it does come at a cost, because you're paying for time, and the club aren't in a position to pay us as coaches, and it's just a tricky one. I don't like taking money, but it's like you can't be having it, both ways. If you're giving up 2-3 hours of your time, it needs to be paid for, and that's sort of the way some clubs have to go down the line with it. And I know West Starton are only asking for donations. I think I read somewhere, they may be more financially better off than what Walkden is, and that may sound to some people no chance, but from a junior point of view, we're totally separate from the senior point of view, and that's what happens.
Well, they've been a godsend for me, because I keep sharing your videos to our kids and our parents and what have you. So just keep doing them, and then I don't have to do anything. It's magic.
I bet the whole Walkden farm with little boys.
Yeah, I know. No, they're great, mate. Obviously, doing stuff like that is one, it's proactive. 2, it's very simple. And that ultimately cricket coaching should be as simple as possible. No names mentioned, but there's a lot of people out there who overcomplicate it. And I said it in another one. It's the same bat, it's the same ball, and it is. It's bat, it's ball, it is what it is. And the videos that you're doing are fantastic, mate. So yeah, keep doing them. Next one, quickly, we're going to go on to professionals and overseas players. Two-part question. First of all, what are Walkden's plans in regards to a pro and overseas, or one or the other, or both? And then, how important is it having pros?
So re-signed that Bar and Rambo from last year. Obviously been put on hold, and I'm under the impression and understanding that the agreement is, if the leagues ended this year, the contracts will be rolled over to next year. So that will be, I think, a given. I don't think there's going to be much cricket played this year. So Bar and Rambo for the next 2 years. I know the club are looking at trying to bring over like a South African, like someone like Aidan Markham, in future years, just to sort of bring a different vibe towards the club. And and but that's down to people higher up than me. And going pros and overseas, I think as a kid, when I was growing up, you always watched the pro, whether it was batting, bowling, keeping, fielding. I remember when I was a kid, Michael Klinger was the pro at Walkden, and it was a thing of wherever he was fielding, you used to go and walk around and stand near him and speak to him, and I think it just keeps the standards high, and gives as well senior players a little bit of, a kick up the backside to train. If your pros turn up and overseas turn up, you're more likely to turn up, if they're giving up their time. And also juniors players just want to aspire. I mean, Aidan Markham was at the club 4 years ago, and to then see him on Sky, I mean, as any young kid, like, oh my, I've met him, I've been coached by him, and now he's on TV. And I think, it's personally, it's massive in the club, in the game. And I think, even if you can't afford an overseas, just get one big name professional. I appreciate some clubs struggle to get two, but I think having them around the club is better than not.
I'd agree. I think that they have a massive impact if it's done correctly, and the correct pro source for X club, and they're involved, and they coach the kids, they get involved. They obviously ultimately they're being paid to do a job, so they've got to be a decent cricketer. But if you can get them, like you say, you mentioned about a different vibe. If you can get that vibe correct and you can get your club buzzing, I mean, having a great pro is fantastic, really. And Walkden have been one of the clubs that they've had some excellent professionals. I think they've had some brilliant pros over the last 20 years that I've played. They've had some phenomenal cricketers as pros. So, whoever keeps sourcing the pros at Walkden, well done, and keep doing it. T20 cricket, Bushy. Let's go on to T20. What's Walkden's plans for T20, and what does Walkden want out of T20 in the future?
T20 personally for me, I think if it was my way, I would have no pros and overseas playing in it. And people might think, why is that? And I've turned up to some games, and you turn up and it's rock up at 5:45, throw your pads on, out you go, and go and smack a pink ball around and see how many we get, and it's a bit of a laugh. And then you turn up to some of the grounds and they're meeting at 5:00, they've had a proper warm up, and I think something needs to change in the format of how standards are. I think personally I would say no pros and overseas can play, and it promotes some of the youth. You have to have 3 under-18s in your team. I played on a Sunday, and it was full of young kids, and we played, I can't remember who we played, I think it was Goulburn or someone like that, and we had an under-18 bowling at a pro, and it's T20 and the pro's going, I'm just going to tee off. And there's an under-18 going all around the park and looking towards me and other players going, what do I do? And we just keep bowling, get to the end of the over. Whereas if you've got 3 under-18s in your team, you can say to the under-18, well, we're going to bowl you when the other under-18 is in bat, and they have to say, you could say you have to pick 2 batsmen and a bowler, or 2 bowlers and a batsman, and they've got to bowl. If you're a bowler, they've got to bowl the 4 overs. If they're a batsman, they've got to bat in the top 5, something along those lines. As well as your first team players. I mean, at Walkden, it's hit and miss. A lot of the lads in the first team at Walkden, because you got to remember the Walkden first team is in Lancashire Knockout, they're in the Amer Cup, usually get found in both competitions, and also they're in the league. So when it comes to T20 on a Tuesday night or a Friday night, the effort deteriorates and it loses its value, I think. And
it's a bit of a back step.
I think if you
on the back burner,
if you just make it, a bit more accessible for all, in a way, I don't know how you would do that. And I know some clubs would be like, "Shut up, Bushy, you're talking crap. We're paying a pro 20 grand a year. He's playing every game." I get it, but I just if there's 3 teams on a Sunday, give a club a chance to make something of it. I've turned up to games on a Tuesday night. I think last year I played against you guys on a Tuesday night for social, and it was like I turned up at 5:30, and I was, Jake O'Byrne was running late, and I said, Richard Dempsey, you're opening. And I slogged a 70 odd, and it was like...
Yeah, don't remind me.
You know, I got dropped 6 times or whatever, but it was like, you know, you turned up and you think at 5:30, and then, you know, that's how serious some clubs take it, you know, and it was... And I don't know, I think maybe if it's a Sunday, three teams playing a round robin sort of thing, and clubs can have a bit of a go at it, or maybe put it in tiers, tier 1, 2 and 3. And, you know, if you're a tier 3 club, you might be at top of the league, but tier 3, you take your T20, it's full of kids. You know, so you choose what tier you're going.
Interesting. No one's come up with that yet, so that's a new one. And like you said, some people will take it on board, some people will rubbish it, but ultimately, you know, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people to, you know, give ideas and you know, I mean, no one's mentioned tiers. You know, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think, you know, based on the T20 cricket I've played over the last few years, I think there's definitely tiers within whether we like it or not. You know, You've definitely got your teams who are, you know, top draw at it, and, you know, we keep banging on about Orich, but they are the best at it. You know, the top draw at it. They put a good show on. They're very good in terms of playing the game. They play it well. And there's a few other clubs out there who do a fantastic job of T20. So
yeah, you might say like tier 1, you can play your overseas and pros. Tier 2, it's 1. You know, so you've just, for those clubs that have just got 1 pro or 1 overseas, and then tier 3, it's no pros, no overseas, and it's more of a, you don't want to use that word social game, but it's
development.
Development, yeah.
Use that word.
Yeah, use that word. You know, it's more of a development, and you might find that, you know, I mean, going up against some teams who are in the development team, it's their first team, and it's a really competitive game, and it's close, but that first team are in Division 1 and struggling, and they have a really competitive game, and then they turn up on a Saturday, and then, you know, it just might bring a buzz back to the club, you know, on a Friday night or a Sunday or something, if it's more competitive and more.
Well, it's certainly worth looking at. You know, it's an idea, and you know, people are listening out there. You don't know. You know, you might have a lot of people who agree with you. So we'll see where we go with that. Last subject, mate. Obviously, you know, we'll keep banging on about coronavirus. Just your opinion. You know, there's no rights and no wrongs. What do you think this has done to amateur cricket, and do you think it'll affect us in future years to come? And I think before you answer me, you're in not a privileged position, but obviously you're massively involved with rugby as well, and that's been you know, kicked into touch. No pun intended. What do you think?
I mean, I think cricket will recover more than other sports like rugby. You know, rugby is a contact game, and you're rubbing shoulders constantly with somebody either on your team or against you. I think cricket, you can, you know, more or less keep your social distance. I mean, I've for a long time in the corner at Little Lever under the balcony, and you're on your own. There's nobody else around you, you know, getting abused. But, you know, I think, you know, I don't know. I think nothing will be normal for a while. I mean, in the rugby circle, there's talks that there'd be no rugby until after Christmas. I don't know how you can play cricket this year when, you know, there's still social distancing measures. How do you expect 11 lads to get changed? You know, talk about Orich, 11 lads in the dungeons at Orich. You know, how can 11 lads get changed and not be socially distant? You know,
it's difficult, isn't it? There's so many moving parts to cricket, and that's the problem. That it doesn't matter what, you know, measures you put in place. There's always something else. Like
it's like you stood up to stumps. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
can't be done, can it?
Can't be done because you're too close to batter. You know, and you know, can the batters have a chat in the middle at the end of the over? You know, usually about what pint they're having, but you know, I just don't think. I think until there's a vaccine, until there's it's moved on, developed, and people understand the virus a lot more, I don't think things will be normal. I mean, there may be restrictions that cricket can take place, but it's outside changing. So you turn up to the game in your whites. Back when you were under 11s, you know, you leave in your whites. you have an area, separated. But it's other things like, yes, cricket may get the green light, but then if cricket gets the green light, you can't open your bar. You've got to pay for umpires, scorers, tees.
Yeah,
How some clubs, I'm talking from knowing from a second team point of view. At second team, we have to cover all our costs. There may be some clubs like Walkden, there may be a first team backer, that pays for the scorer, pays for the tees, pays for the umpire. But most of the time, certainly second team level, it's the lads paying their own way to cover the cost.
Yeah.
And if your bar's not open and you're not getting that out from the club, I mean, I know at Walkden, the club pays the scorers, but that's only because they've got the bar taken. If the bar's not open, who pays for the scorers? And it's little things like that. And I think nothing will be back to normal for a while. And I think cricket may be one of those sports that gets the green light before other sports like rugby. And that's really, I'm very open-minded about what's happening. Obviously, being a teacher, we're going back to work next week,
Yeah.
And there's big question marks over that, but I think when you start seeing pubs and restaurants opening and gyms opening, that's when you're really going to start sport back to playing competitive fixtures.
Fingers crossed, mate. That obviously comes, pretty sharpish, because I think there's a lot of people out there, and there'll be people watching these, and I've had loads of messages, people messaging me saying, they've been interested in listening to these interviews and listening to different people that they wouldn't normally get a chance to listen about. And that's ultimately, that was the aim of the whole thing, that we were going to try and bring the cricket community together, and we all chat about our issues and chat about our strong points for our clubs. And I've spoke to people on this that I'd never normally speak to, so fingers crossed, these interviews get out to people and show people and show their clubs what they're all about.
Yeah, I think, the cricket, I mean, what is it, Curtis down at Little Lever, what he did, and how many people got on board with that for St. Anne's, was it Bolton Hospice?
Yeah, the down in a pint job, yeah.
Yeah, it just shows how much the Bolton League is so well interlinked with other clubs and other players, and having this opportunity to speak to you and getting a different look on Walkden. Walkden always, whenever I've talked to people, it comes with a cloud over it. Yes, there is clouds over it, but there is some sunshine coming through. That there is some good people there. I mean, Steve Edwards Senior, without him, the junior section would be struggling. And things like that. There's a lot of good people at Walkden, and yes, you might have your opinions, but every club has a cloud over it at times. And
goes around in cycles, doesn't it? Clubs go around in cycles, and some clubs have fantastic success for a few years, and then they'll have a dip off and they'll do something different. And it's the same with the juniors. So if people are not clever enough to realise that, then they're walking around with their eyes shut.
Exactly.
So Nathan Rushton, Bushy, aka Bushy, thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate you taking a bit of time out to speak to us and obviously discussing Walkden Cricket Club.
Thank you.
Good evening. See you, bud.
See you later, mate.